Let's talk about what's happened in Syria and the fall of the Assad regime. Approximately a week and a half ago, brutal dictator Bashar al-Assad was toppled in Syria. This came after more than a decade after the Syrian civil war began. A week and a half ago, Assad left Syria without giving any speech or address to his country, as rebel forces from HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, an affiliate of al-Qaeda, descended upon Syria's capital city of Damascus. In what's been described essentially as a bloodless coup, HTS took Damascus, declaring victory over Assad. This ended over 5 decades of brutal rule over the Syrian people by the Assad regime. Over the last decade plus, the world has seen the brutality of the Assad regime. From its violent crackdowns on peaceful protesters, its destructive and brutal warfare that led to Syrians fleeing their homeland for refuge in other countries, namely Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, Egypt, and Germany, and its criminal use of chemical weapons against its own people. The world knew that Assad was a monster. What we did not know is how fragile his rule and his operations had become over the course of the last year. From what I have learned and gleaned so far from the news coverage of Assad's fall, is that the following factors played contributing roles into the fall of his regime. 1. The civil war and sanctions that crippled Syria's economy. 2. Russia, Syria's ally, being drained of resources and having to focus on its own war in Ukraine. 3. Israel's invasion of Lebanon deepened the economic crisis within Lebanon itself and weakened Hezbollah. And those 3 reasons are just scratching the surface. In the hours and days that followed Syria's liberation last weekend, the world learned more about Assad's crimes against the Syrian people, namely through the photos and videos that came out from his notorious prisons. These photos and videos showed people trapped in underground dungeons, imprisoned toddlers who had never known a day of freedom, torture devices, and mass graves. I saw a report in the news today being December 17th, that a mass grave that was estimated to be over 100,000 people has been found in Syria. The fall of Assad represents a new chapter for the Syrian people. Families in Syria are finally being reunited. Syrians who have lived in exile abroad throughout the world are now making plans to return home to Syria. And most importantly, the Syrian people have a chance at self-determination and charting their own future. However, the road ahead is also very uncertain. Assad was a monster who tortured, killed, and gassed his own people to hold on to power. And Assad's overthrow has brought this moment of liberation and joy to the Syrian people within Syria itself and abroad all over the world. However, there is now a power vacuum that exists within Syria, and all of the players involved have their own agenda. That includes HTS, the United States, Israel, and Turkey. At this point, the consensus seems to be that only time will tell what will happen. Will Syria truly become a democratic state that represents the diversity and interests of all of its citizens? Will foreign powers effectively carve up Syria to suit their own interests and agenda? Will Israel annex the Golan Heights and steal more Syrian land? Since the fall of Assad, it's been reported that the Israeli military has destroyed all of Syria's military equipment and installations. In fact, the US and Turkey also launched airstrikes on Syria within days of Assad's fall. And they stated that these airstrikes were to, quote, protect interests. Ahead of the fall of Assad, over the course of the last year, Israel had been routinely bombing Syria, as it bombed Gaza and Lebanon and also conducted airstrikes in both Iran and Yemen as well. Additionally, after the fall of Assad, Israel moved past the Golan Heights into the buffer zone, occupying even more Syrian land. At minimum, Israel seems prepared to take the Golan Heights, which is territory that has been illegally occupied under a military occupation by Israel since 1967. And Israel could attempt to occupy and take even more Syrian land. under the excuse of self-defense in the days, weeks, and months to come. The extreme version of Greater Israel that most right-wing and extreme Israeli politicians eschew includes more than half the land in present-day Syria. Syria is strategically located to the north of Jordan, west of Iraq, and south of Turkey. Syria borders the Israeli state at its southernmost tip. The reality is that Syria has been liberated from an oppressor, but Syria's future and the future of the entire Levant region remains uncertain. Please check out the video description below to check out resources that include more information on the history, the context, the situation on the ground today in Syria. And please like this video so that it can get to more people who can learn about the situation. Follow my channel if you are interested in more content like this. And if you're interested in more content like this, subscribe to my Substack as well. The link is in my bio and in the video description as well.